You're listening to the podcast about little-known niche subcultures and hobbies that reintroduces you to your neighbors in Technicolor. I'm Leslie Thompson, and it's niche to meet you. You're listening to Niche to Meet You, the podcast about little-known niche subcultures that might change the way you think about the world. This is the second episode in a two-part series about competitive speed puzzling. Just ahead, you'll hear more about the history of the puzzle, the interplay between puzzle makers and puzzle people, and I'll try to solve a puzzle as quickly as I can. Kind of.
The image looked a lot easier than I feel like I'm feeling it is at the moment.
I'm Leslie Eiler Thompson, and it's niche to meet you. When we left the puzzle people in the last episode, we had just considered the effects of the COVID pandemic on that niche and how it's responsible for the popularity of the activity now. But the COVID pandemic was hardly the jigsaw puzzle's first surge in popularity due to societal crisis.
From the inception of jigsaw puzzles, there's always been sort of this ebb and flow over the years when they get popular. And you can kind of almost tie them to what's going on in history.
That's Cynthia Smith. She's a former competitive speed puzzler and organizer of the St. Paul Winter Carnival that I visited in the last episode. The story of jigsaw puzzling as a niche can be traced back to the 1700s, when a map engraver mounted one of his maps onto wood and then cut out the countries to help children learn geography. The Industrial Revolution not only gave folks more time for leisure activities like puzzles, but it ushered in materials and processes which made making puzzles easier and cheaper.
They got really popular during the Depression. People didn't have money to do anything else, and a jigsaw was cheap. World War II, you aren't going out anywhere. Jigsaw puzzles got big again. The 70s, they had a little resurgence. Then the pandemic hits, and oh my gosh, it explodes. Everybody's doing jigsaw puzzles.
So it seems the puzzle is always there for us when we find ourselves needing mindfulness practices, when the world outside is too much to handle. But the history of doing it as quickly as possible, competitively, that's somewhat new.
Back in the 1980s, they had national competitions held in Ohio. Certain puzzle companies would come out with puzzles just for that competition. Springbok Puzzles, they were one of the sponsors of it. So the Winter Carnival used to do a puzzle contest back late 80s through maybe mid 90s. I really like to think that this latest resurgence with speed puzzling can be traced back to the Winter Carnival in 2010, and then Wicker Kittens coming the next year.
If COVID was the spark that lit the flame of competitive speed puzzling popularity, the documentary Wicker Kittens was the flint. It's a cult classic among these folks, quoted almost like it's official law. The 2011 film follows the St. Paul Winter Carnival on its first year back from the many years-long hiatus, and the names in the movie are still celebrities to this day. The Mallory move that we mentioned in the last episode, it was coined in that documentary by none other than Sarah Schuler's Uncle Steven.
You can move chunks of the puzzle from one part to the other using the Mallory move. If you have a north-south grain, grab the corners and pull, and you can lift up a good chunk of puzzle.
The impact of this movie is immense. It's responsible for the careers of many, including Tammy McLeod, the Guinness Book of World Records holder.
I didn't start speed puzzling in earnest till 6 years ago when I saw the documentary Wicker Kittens. That documentary turned me on to the fact that there was still speed puzzling activity going on in the United States.
And Cynthia Smith is a featured name in the film. She's part of the team they called the Champions.
We won. And then my team went on and we won first place 5 years in a row. It's a record that stands still, which was great.
The Wicker Kittens documentary led to some monumental growth in the competition itself. Initially, it only had one time slot with 60 or 70 teams. That was it. And then suddenly, they added a second time slot in the afternoon, and then they had 3 contests per day, and then they had 4 per day. And in 2023, Cynthia couldn't find a venue big enough.
So then the next year, we added a pairs competition, and we added 1,000 piece. And I had a waiting list in the hundreds.
The acclaimed St. Paul Winter Carnival contest has been sponsored in recent years by Puzzle Twist. They're a company based in Minnesota that manufacture puzzles with slight deviations from the box images, making the solve just slightly different than what you see on the box. In fact, puzzle companies tend to have particular qualities that make them unique, and these instill a fondness for those who are doing puzzles often. One of those manufacturers is Springbok, arguably one of the biggest names in the industry and the oldest completely US-based puzzle company that's still manufacturing them.
It started out in 1963. It was basically a couple, Robert and Katie Lewin.
This is Marissa Lytle. She's on the front lines of Springbok production. She comes up with new designs and works with influencers to create the puzzles.
And Robert had been traveling in Europe and brought back these round puzzles from Europe that his children absolutely loved and his wife loved too. And they decided, hey, wouldn't it be neat if they could make these round puzzles basically here in the States?
And they developed the Springbok puzzle brand. And it has a beloved characteristic. Every single piece in the puzzle is uniquely shaped. Completely uniquely shaped, like weird shapes. And this was true from the beginning. Katie Lewin hand drew the cutouts to make the pieces, and they still do that today.
And our design team, when we come out with a new die to make or cut our puzzles, they're drawing out the pieces for a 500, 1,000. They draw it out on a computer with their hands. It is hand done.
Because of this, the pieces fit together so tightly that they snap together and stay.
Some people kind of complain because they're like, well, I have to kind of work my fingers to push the pieces together.
But there's a special kind of satisfaction that comes from this.
But a lot of people, which we lovingly in the puzzle community refer to as puzzle flippers, love these things because when they're done, they can pick up the puzzle with their fingers and kind of flip it back and forth and hold it, and it stays intact because it's fitting together so tightly. So that is considered kind of the mark of a well-quality made puzzle because it goes together well.
Collectors appreciate this characteristic in a puzzle. It's easier to frame and display, and for some, it's easier to store with other completed puzzles in architecture drawers. Like for a collector someone told me about that has over 10,000 completed puzzles in his house. There was even a gathering the night before the St. Paul Winter Carnival for Springbok collectors. And the Springbok puzzles are at the top of the list of famous puzzle lore, like the Puzzler.
This is the most difficult puzzle I personally have ever done, and one that has stopped many puzzlers from completing because of its level of frustration. They've done it as an anniversary puzzle, basically. This particular puzzle, because of the image that's on top of the puzzle, screws with your eyes. It's intended to look like puzzle pieces on the image, but the puzzle is not cut in the same way as those pieces are. And in this last piece, we also included an impression of the number 60 as part of the 60th anniversary. So that made it probably, of all of them, the simplest to do. But I say that very cautiously because it's still not simple. It's still very challenging. Yeah, very challenging.
But for the competitive puzzlers who have found community and purpose in this niche, the Puzzler is just the beginning, especially for those who make a living doing it. And after this break, we meet one of them, and she'll help me solve a puzzle as quickly as I can. We'll be right back. Psst, hey, I want to take a quick break because I want to tell you about a very special announcement that's coming on April 6th. It's huge, and only people who are in the newsletter will hear about it first. Then it'll go out on socials and probably take over the world, break the internet, all of those things. But I want to tell you about it, the listener, first. So go to the show notes. You will see something that says, click here to sign up to be surprised. It'll invite you to sign up for the newsletter, and then next week you will get the announcement of the lifetime. Okay, back to the episode. The Puzzler, Springbok's round anniversary puzzle, is a challenge that brings avid puzzlers to their knees, that sits uncompleted on many a puzzle board, except for maybe the quickest puzzlers in the world who make their living completing them.
Yeah, so I've done 2 videos actually about this series. This is just a puzzle series that I'm really interested in.
This is Karen Cavett. She's better known as Karen Puzzles. She was mentioned in the last episode. She's like an influencer in the most classic of ways. 300,000 followers on YouTube, almost 100,000 followers on Instagram. She makes her living from puzzle content, and the people love it.
I felt like I had some interesting stuff to say about puzzles, and on YouTube at the time, nobody was talking about puzzles. Like, there were some time-lapse videos of like giant puzzles, but there was nobody really putting a personality behind it. And then when COVID hit, I was just kind of in the right place at the right time. And now I'm just doing the puzzle channel full-time.
While puzzling may seem a low-stakes industry, Karen sees her role as a responsibility. She's aware, for example, that people refer to her videos when they do their own competitions.
I take that very seriously. Like, I know that a lot of people in this community are either watching the videos or the information that I'm sharing kind of gets passed along. And, you know, obviously what I choose to focus on and what I choose to say, that's going to be the record of this event forever, essentially. So yeah, I do take that very seriously. I think a lot about how I edit those, what I write, like what I focus on.
Unlike the cobbler with holes in his own shoes, Karen enjoys returning to the subject of her work when she needs its benefits.
I'll get burnt out sometimes on making content and the editing and all of that, but then I'll still just go and do a puzzle for fun and not, you know, film it and not photograph it necessarily. The parts in my videos where I get to just set up a time lapse, that's the best part of it for me, because that's when I get to just do a puzzle.
I get it. This is the one niche I've covered that I've actually started adopting myself. I'm doing it at night while listening to an audiobook or maybe for a few minutes over lunch with nothing but silence. But I'm no speed puzzler, and I wondered what it would feel like to know there's a clock running, to work as quickly as possible to solve a jigsaw puzzle. But I couldn't do it without some help, because if there's anything my nightly puzzling activity has taught me, it's that I'm more akin to the tortoise than the hare. So, I enlisted the experts. I asked Springbok to send me some puzzles to choose from, and I sought Karen's advice on how to go about doing this experiment.
You're going to dump everything out. You're going to flip over all the pieces. I think you should just pick a color, and as you're flipping, sort out just that color. Once you've done that, you pull the next color that you want to work on, put that together, and then keep going until you're done.
Okay, so don't start with edges first. Now I'm trying to figure out if I decide to put like a hard stop on it before
I think your hard stop should be 2 hours, because that's usually the cutoff in competitions.
Okay. So here's the problem with 2 hours. That is a long time for something that'll just end up mostly as audio or a short video clip. It's also just a lot of data storage. And it would probably mostly be boring, mumbling, random spurts of frustration, etc. What you would really care to know is how difficult solving a 500-piece puzzle is, how exceptional these speed puzzlers are. Like when we watch the Olympics and wish there were a split screen with an average person completing the same event. That is way more interesting. So, in 2024, 17-year-old Alice Rowe won the USA National Jigsaw Association competition with a time of 39 minutes and 12 seconds. Wouldn't you rather know what a normal person could do in the same amount of time? Yeah, that's what I thought too. So I reviewed my notes, collected from interviews and watching the Wicker Kittens documentary. Things like not wearing a shirt with big sleeves or not having snacks.
Oh yeah, if you bring snacks, you don't want to win.
This moment in the film is known and quoted by competitive speed puzzlers. Here's Tammy when I asked her for some advice in our interview. There's that moment where they talk about snacks, you know?
That specific line has resonated so strongly through the speed puzzling community. It's hilarious. There have been teams who have names based on that, like Team No Snacks. It's been referred to and memed, and we love that line.
So, no snacks for me. And the water provided by the studio? I put it on the floor, of course, because I want to win. Behind me is a TV monitor with the timer set to 39 minutes and 12 seconds. And then I began my own analysis and strategy talk.
I don't want to get too arrogant, but so it's this beautiful chicken with lots of different colors that seem to be defined. So when I talked to Karen, she said, don't start with the edges, start with the colors and do color sorting and then go from there. So I'm going to do that, but it makes me nervous because I usually do edges. Oh boy, okay. I am starting to get nervous now. Okay.
Ready?
Yes.
Here we go. 10.
Jonas begins the countdown,
8.
and I begin to get very nervous.
4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Go! Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm gonna repeat Sarah Schuler when she said, plastic. Colors. Oh no, I don't even see any edges.
It's an odd thing to move one's hands as quickly as possible with purpose and to actually accomplish something. I felt shaky, easily distractible, despite having a very clear goal. I tried committed to sorting, but it did not go well.
The image looked a lot easier than I feel like I'm feeling it is at the moment. I really love how arrogant I was. Really love it. It feels great right now. This is gonna be so bad.
I struggled with the color sorting because some of them were so similar and I was making zero progress to get any together. In fact, in 10 minutes, I hadn't found a single piece that fit together with another one.
Maybe my aim should be to find 2 pieces that fit together in 39 minutes and 12 seconds. That's my new goal.
Then I realized this design has a solid border. So regardless of Karen's suggestion to start with colors, starting with the edges was probably the best way to go. So I did, and I found immediate success.
Wait, is this? I did it. I did it. I found these on my own, went together. Okay, I wonder, can I find another one if I've done it once? Maybe I could do it again. Did I just do it again? Yeah, I did. All right. Okay.
I kept chugging along, just like that. I even got to use the Mallory move from Wicker Kittens.
Oh, there's the Mallory move. There I go.
With less than 4 minutes left, I decided I had a new goal, to finish the top edge. And with less than a minute left, I did it.
Oh, yeah! I got it. I got the top. I did. I can't believe I did it, actually.
And then, almost as quickly as the whole thing started, there were only 10 seconds left.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh my gosh.
Immediately, I needed time to recover.
My back hurts. My throat hurts from breathing. Wait, where's that water? I managed to get the entire top edge, both corners. Thank you.
I remind you, it took me 39 minutes and 12 seconds.
I've been got by the chicken. So thank you, Springbok. Cheers.
The weekend after that 500-piece puzzle attempt, still fresh from my puzzling wounds, but resolved to complete a puzzle faster than I have ever done, I took another Springbok puzzle, this time a 350-piece, and decided I would complete it leisurely, but in less than 24 hours. Of course, I took breaks, but I did it. And my favorite part was doing something Cynthia mentioned in the last episode.
And then another common thing a lot of puzzlers do is you just rub. You rub the puzzle and you just feel it. It's done. It's complete. You did that.
So I looked at my own puzzle that I had solved, all 350 pieces of it, and I rubbed it. And then I flipped it.
Can I flip it? I did it!
I pulled it up into the air and beheld the thing that I had just accomplished. Hey, before we continue with this episode, I want to take a moment and thank Springbok Puzzles. They sponsored this story, both parts of it, and I genuinely have become a Springbok puzzler. Springbok is one of the only brands that are flippable when you complete them. And it adds this extra level of delight and joy and accomplishment when you can pick a puzzle up by its top and pull it into the air. I'm telling you, it is absolutely thrilling. So, Springbok is giving all niche listeners 10% off their order. If you go to springbokpuzzles.com, you can use code NICHEPUZZLE10. I also have all this information in the show notes. So go get your own flippable Springbok puzzle. They are beautiful. They have all sorts of designs, and the different shapes of each piece is such a fun experience. So you're not trying like 10 pieces in a single spot. I genuinely love Springbok, and if you want to start puzzling, they are the place to start. So check the show notes for more information. Okay, let's get back to the episode. After the completion of a puzzle, you can either put it back in the box or you can frame it. Gamel James, the owner of the Unified Pieces puzzle brand, specifically designs his puzzles with this in mind.
Just to have something that can even hang up and use as art. It's like you're designing with the artist. You're putting together the art as if you were the artist. So when you finish it, it feels like you were a part of putting together that art and have that good sense of accomplishment when you're done with it. And that's a good important aspect to puzzling too.
Gamel grew up puzzling with his family. There was always one out at holiday gatherings. He made special note of how welcoming the puzzle community is.
You know, everyone's real supportive of each other. And before I started my company, I was really kind of integrating into the puzzle community. And that's one thing I wanted to provide for them was like a good puzzling experience for them. Just kind of spoil them the way they spoil everyone else, you know, so that's it.
But Gamel did notice something, an opportunity to hire and promote Black and brown artists and produce images that serve a wider audience for people who looked like him to enjoy this activity he loved and that brought him so much benefit.
The world changes and there's new stuff and new art to be discovered. I can't say I'm the first Black puzzle company, you know, I definitely follow the blueprint, like Puzzles of Color, Coco's Puzzles, Apostrophe, RC Wellness, those are all dope companies. I thought Puzzles was a perfect opportunity to kind of mix our vision of diversity in puzzles, as well as fun puzzles, as well as quality puzzles. Because I'm a guy too, and in the puzzle world, a lot of it is geared towards women. So just putting the guy spin on it too, like if a guy had wanted to do a puzzle but didn't want to do like a landscape, he can do like a dragon, or you know, like a hip hop head can do MF Doom, who usually doesn't do puzzles, you know, and still learn about that good representation.
As we talked, Gamel brought puzzle boxes into the frame to show me examples of the artwork. The colors are bold, the designs are modern. He's seen them appeal to a younger generation, especially those looking for mindful experiences untouched by a digitized world.
One of the main missions of our company is just to provide non-tech meditative experiences, you know, that brings families together, brings that mindfulness. You know, I notice when I do puzzles, you lock in, it brings you into that flow state. And then there's also that good sense of accomplishment when you finish a puzzle. You know, you feel like you can attack some other stuff. So
there's science to support this feeling he's talking about. Trauma therapist Olivia James says that focusing such that your mind is occupied but not excessively challenged is incredibly helpful for people with depression, anxiety, and stress. And this isn't something exclusive to younger generations, but the oldest among us as well. Those whose memories might be fading, and whose ability to complete tasks have slipped through their fingers. Springbok makes a specific line of puzzles for this demographic, actually. Their memory care line produces smaller piece count puzzles with bigger pieces, specifically for those with Alzheimer's and dementia.
What they love about the puzzles is they get to do it themselves. They can complete something and say, I did that, I finished that. Many times they might think they're not able to do certain things themselves, but when they complete that, they just have this look of satisfaction that is amazing.
But the science goes even further. Studies have shown that doing puzzles actually slows the progression of the disease. Working on puzzles and similar activities can significantly slow the onset of symptoms.
It started as a result of a cooperative effort with a group called Puzzles to Remember. It was a young man, he was a teenager at the time, who reached out to us. He had been studying about the fact that you could utilize the brain in multiple ways when you were puzzling. It helps very much with causing multiple parts of your brain to interact at the same time. And he felt that this would be a great tool to use with people who had those kinds of issues. And that sense of accomplishment is actually a dopamine lift. It is something that you physically feel in your brain as a result of accomplishing something. And I think all of us have experienced where you have a project that you get to see start to finish completed, which is why I think these speed puzzlers enjoy what they do, because they can see their work completed quick. You know, they can make it happen fast, and that's great.
Whether you're fast or slow, puzzling might be a worthwhile way to spend your time. It's been a welcome addition to my daily habits and practices, a way to set aside the hum of the day, put my eyes to something analog while my brain tidies up the leftover thoughts and concerns before laying down to rest. You might find this to be the case too, if you take up the activity. But listen, don't take my word for it. Just ask Tammy, who has 2 Guinness Book of World Records for speed puzzling.
I love puzzle. It's just, it keeps me sane. It gives me structure to how I approach things. I just wish everybody found something for them that worked that way. And I don't evangelize puzzles because not everybody's built the same way. But if anybody ever wanted to ask me anything about puzzles, I would be so happy to talk about puzzles.
Here. Second place, Sarah. We love it. Yes. Good work, Lauren.
The Niche to Meet You podcast and project is created and reported by me, Leslie Eiler Thompson. Chris Thiessen is our associate script editor. Abigail Flowers composed the music you hear under you, and the arrangement is produced by her, Chris Leidecker, and Kevin Gift. Our beautiful art was designed by Rachel Hardiker, and this episode was mastered by Kevin Morris. Learn more about all things niche at niche2meetyou.show. You can join our niche list for our monthly niche letter and learn what we'll be covering next. Again, that's niche2meetyou.show. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Leslie, and it's been so niche to meet you.